Hey guys, Justin Coffin for the 330 Sports Show. I am going to bring on our guest here in just a minute. As you can see below on the bottom, make sure to follow our social media pages at 330 Sports Show. Obviously, we are a Youngstown studio production. Make sure to follow Youngstown Studio. Share this video out with any of your friends that would be interested, because we have a lot of cool guests on this show, but I think it's so awesome when we can get a guest of this caliber. You can see it on the ticker below if you're listening later on podcasts. We have, I mean, it's the list could go on and on about her resume, but to keep it brief, she's a Northeast Ohio girl, but she is a two-time world champion, an Olympic gold medalist. We're going to bring on, her name was Katie Najat. Now it's Katie Moon. She just recently was married. So we're going to bring her on in just a minute, but we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors and then bring on Katie.
Don't let the weather keep you from working on your golf game. Golf year-round at The Bunker. They have 12 state-of-the-art golf simulators, including numerous putt-putt courses. Enjoy unlimited golf for $50 a month by becoming a member. Visit thebunkersp.com or stop by in person. The Bunker, inside the Southern Park Mall. This program proudly supported and brought to you by Eric Cromer, Cross Country Mortgage, a wiser way to mortgage. This program proudly supported and brought to you by Youngstown Computer, the Valley's IT company.
All right, thank you to those sponsors. Let's go ahead and let's bring her on. Let's bring on our guest, Katie. Katie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So where are you? Where are you at right now? Where in the world is Katie Moon?
I am in Atlanta, Georgia. I live and train here primarily, but that's a fair question because just a couple days ago I was in India. I got to be the ambassador for their the Mumbai Marathon, which I'm not a runner, so I was just as shocked as anyone else to be invited, but it was amazing. So
cool. So I mean, yeah, we're gonna get into like where this Olympic path has taken you, but just so cool. So we can't thank you enough again for taking time out of your busy, I got questions about training and this and that and like the upcoming Olympics, the former Olympics, but let's get into it. First and foremost, you're a proud Northeast Ohio athlete. So just give us a little brief snapshot of your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Olmsted Falls, Ohio, and tried pole vault for the first time in 7th grade. I grew up trying any sport I could. So my first sports were golf, skiing, snowboarding. And then once I got into school sports, it was the classic ones like basketball, softball, soccer, things like that. But once I got into high school, then it was golf, swimming and diving, and track. And yeah, I was talented in the pole vault pretty immediately, but it took me until my senior year to win the state meet. And then I went on to the University of Dayton for 2 years. Wasn't a great fit for me, transferred to Ashland University, and then the rest I think is history from there.
So, a lot of people obviously, watch the Olympics when it's on, and some of the sports like, and this is no disrespect to pole vault or any other sport, but it's like sometimes you only see those sports every 4 years during the Olympics. So my first question I have to lead with is, and I know you got into this, like reading your background and stuff in 7th grade, but how does one get into pole vaulting?
It was just, I saw the older kids doing it and knew I needed to try it. Like I said, I did maybe I said this or not, but I did gymnastics when I was little. And so I loved anything involving upper body strength and adrenaline. And I had since quit gymnastics. So, but that was definitely the next right sport for me. And so, yeah, I saw the high schoolers doing it when I was in 7th grade. It was the first year we could do track for our school, and they took us over to the high school, and I begged my coaches for days to let me go over. And I think they were very hesitant to just take on pole vault, especially at that point. Pole vault had only been in the Olympics for women since 2000, and this was 2004. So I think the combination of that, plus it's just so involved and it's complicated, and safety issues and things. They don't really understand the pole vault, but I wouldn't let it go. I knew I needed to try it, and I walked over and got to try it at the end of the second day, I think, and I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, I obviously, you know, I've seen it. I've seen you and many clips now doing some research, and I watch it in the Olympics. I've only seen it live in person one time in my life, and I'm not a person that's like afraid of heights or like anything like that, but I would be totally frightened if someone told me, all right, here's this. First of all, how long is the pole you use?
When I started, it was much shorter, but now it is 14.5 feet.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're taking this 14-foot stick basically, and I want you to jump over that. That's about the same height. So it's like, I don't know. It's and contort your body in a way to get over this other pole, and it's unbelievable.
Well, funny enough, it's not the height that is the scary part. It's really that commitment into the jump, because that is, again, with the 14-foot pole, you know, things can go wrong. So where it's scary is actually that first part of the jump. Once you're off the ground and upside down and in the air, that's the fun part. And funny enough, I don't like heights, but it's very different standing up, looking down, thinking about jumping off, as opposed to starting level and going up and down very quickly. So,
Okay. All right. So, you know, looking and correct me if I'm wrong. So looking back, I believe at least at the time, your highest jump, which was the female highest jump in the world, was 16 feet 3/4 inches. Am I correct on that?
Yes, I know metric better than feet and inches. Just in pole vault. But so it's 4 meters 95, which is 16 and change.
Yeah.
2 and change or something like that.
Us Americans like the feet and inches.
I agree. It's just because when I go overseas, that's the only way they will do it. So you have to learn, but
and you compete in a variety of different venues. Like sometimes you're indoors, sometimes you're outdoors. Do you have like a preference on that?
I prefer indoors, because outdoors you have wind and just other elements. So when conditions are great, which is rare for the pole vault, because usually the wind is going along the straightaway with the sprints, where they oftentimes put us on the curve. So we get kind of blustery winds, or just, you know, inconsistent, not in the right direction. But if you can get a good tailwind, wind behind you, and it's warm out, outdoors is great because it's later in the season. You're a bit more fine-tuned, but as a whole, indoors is just so much more consistent. So I prefer indoors, but if you can get good conditions, then outdoors is pretty
good. And you mentioned you're kind of a golfer, right? Or at least have a little bit of a golf background. So you know you get that tailwind. Hey, that's going to help you in the the jump. Okay. But, so, you know, like doing research for this, I mean, I don't know much about it. I watch it and I'm like so impressed, but like literally that's it. But I know there is so much art and so much science that goes into this. So that obviously there's the weight of the pole, there's the length of the pole, there's the how fast are you running and jogging up to the, you know, and getting your speed, and the bend and like getting over, like, so how much training and prep goes into that?
Yeah, so at this point in my career, we are jumping, as in vaulting, twice a week. And so the rest of my week is spent lifting. We do a lot of weight room to try and get as strong and as fast and as powerful as we can. We will sprint on the track without a pole in our hands. We'll do plyometric, so just ground contact jumping. and then rest days. So my week is just a kind of a variety of that. But yeah, vault sessions they're really hard on the body. Vaulting is, you have to bring 100% intensity every trip down the runway, and it's very jarring. And so we're at this point more quality over quantity.
Okay.
And so, but growing up, it was often, I wanted to jump all day, every day if I could.
Okay. That's awesome. And it's good to hear, because a lot of people, it's like, oh, that you're obviously, people can see you're in great shape, but it's like, how it's like, oh, okay, you're doing this for 4 seconds. It's like, no, there is so much training, or
so much,
however long it takes that goes into that event. And how many times are you jumping per, competition?
In a competition, so for example, at the World Championships this past summer, it was, so my warm-ups, 3 to 4 jumps, and then in competition we were at 10.
Wow.
And which doesn't sound like a lot, but
it sounds like a lot to me.
But again, the intensity is 100%. You are sprinting. And I don't know if you do any lifting or anything like that, but the only thing that I could equate it to is if you sprint 30 meters or 100 feet as fast as you can, pretty much. And then at the end of that, you immediately go into a really heavy, like, clean or a snatch.
Sure.
Snatch is probably actually more accurate, because you have to go overhead. And it's a heavy weight.
Yeah.
And so you can do that once, twice, 10 times, but then you get to a point where your body just fatigues beyond beyond safe. But yeah, I would say they give you 3 attempts. You get 3 misses in a row.
Okay.
And there are 3 attempts for each person at each height. So that is why it gets kind of limited, because you can, you get 3 attempts at each height, and then eventually the field kind of narrows down, and then you're the only one left. And
yeah. And you know that feeling quite well after the last couple of years here. But let me I'm going to share a little video here, and I kind of want you to, I don't want to get you too sentimental, too emotional or anything, but this was from WKYC up in Cleveland. I want to kind of just show you this video, and like, just maybe look back a little bit on some of the Tokyo 2020 memories. It's about a 2-minute video, but I just want to get your opinion on it, and just some of your memories on it.
Sure. Well, now to Tokyo, where there's great news to report for Olmsted Falls native Katie Najat.
Yeah, that smile is a gold medal smile, because Katie is bringing home a gold medal. This after winning the top honors in the women's pole vault finals this morning. Will Ewick was up early this morning to check out a watch party in the city, where friends, family, and the entire community rallied around Katie to watch her fly live.
It's not every day that someone is on a ladder changing a sign.
I had it up all week, and they were afraid too many people were coming.
And opening a bar at 5:30 a.m. on a Thursday. But it's also not every day someone you know is competing for a gold medal.
Until this morning, I was actually pretty relaxed, surprisingly.
I am so anxious right now. I didn't get any sleep last night. She loved it from the start, and she was really good right off the bat, but you never believe something like this can happen.
Oh, gosh.
Katie Najat started pole vaulting in the 7th grade. Little did Katie's mom know then that all those trips with those giant poles would lead to this. An early morning emotional roller coaster ride.
This place is buzzing, and then the very first miss at 450, suddenly it's like, oh, hang on. Like, everything's on the line.
I mean, there were points where you could hear a pin drop. It was just, I don't know. There were a lot of highs and lows.
Where practically the entire town was gathered one place or another, dying with each miss. And erupting with each clear.
Thought I was going to throw up. I was so nervous.
Until finally, with the gold medal on the line, euphoria.
I can't even put it into words. I don't even know what I'm thinking. It's just a dream come true. I'm just so happy for her.
That was absolutely surreal.
I always knew she could do it, but to have her actually do it is just, so good.
She's better than everyone. But my God, she tested us patience.
So if people call off work in Olmsted Falls today, don't blame them. Because it's not every day someone you know wins a gold medal.
So I've seen so many of the different videos. And I have one more, maybe two more, like shorter ones that I wanted to show you and get your reaction on. But how does, like, I get chills watching that. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me tear up every time because it was so cool doing it, but then to watch their reaction, and I always cry when I watch the family reactions of other athletes too. So then when it's your family, it's like, it's just so cool. It makes me emotional.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I didn't prep you.
It's the best feeling. It's the best type of emotional because it really just like, I didn't get to celebrate with them in Tokyo, but it was almost better that I knew that everybody that I loved was in one place celebrating it together. And so, yeah, it just that's what made it so much more fun and worth it, was getting to just share that with them. So yeah.
I mean, it's just so awesome watching a town, and it's like, you know, it's almost like a movie where it's like Midwest Ohio. Local athlete makes it big. Everyone gathers at their local bar, restaurant, whatever, and watches. And they were watching it at what, 5:30? And
I think they all got up at 4 a.m. and it started around 5 or 6. And it was, well, I say get up. My family did not sleep. They made that very clear. They just didn't get one bit of sleep that night. But yeah, it was just because it was Tokyo time. So for us, it was actually a pretty late competition. But yeah, I'm glad it was, because then they got to be up at least a semi-normal early time. Like, it wasn't like 3 a.m. that I was jumping. So
no, just so great. And to know, whether they're family or friends or people maybe you don't even know that are just there supporting you because that's where you're from and you're the local legend, the local hero that made it big. And it's just such an awesome story. So love that video. And so I want to get into, since we're already a little bit emotional here, I want you to tell, like, I don't want to share it. I want you to share it, but tell everyone a little bit about your jump ritual and what you do and what that means to you.
Yeah. So my dad passed away when I was 16 of a heart attack very suddenly, but he was any sport that I wanted to try, he would get me into lessons and he would take me to every practice. He would sit in on all the practices he could. He was, it was cool because I asked my mom once, I'm the oldest, and I asked my mom, did dad want a boy or a girl? And she said he wanted a girl, which I was surprised because my dad was like a guy's guy. Like he loved sports and he loved, but then when I was athletic, I think he got the best of both worlds. He would throw the ball with me out front. He would practice layups with me if I was in basketball, much to my dismay. He wanted me to practice and I wanted to practice. But what was cool about pole vault was that he didn't know anything about it. And so he couldn't tell me what to do. And as a teenage girl, that's the worst thing in the world, is your dad telling you what to do. So it was great because he could just tell me what my coach said and I wouldn't get, too irritated with him. And so it kind of just became our thing. And so when he passed, I write dad on the inside of my spike and I tap it before a lot of my jumps, but definitely the big jumps. And that it's nice because I think of him, but it also has become a way to ground me in that moment and just get me very honed in on my cues and what I'm trying to execute. So it kind of has has dual purpose now. So
yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, and I know a lot of people know that, but some people don't, and it's really cool to hear how how it, like you said, it grounds you, but it brings you back, but it's also a special way, and a special way you can connect with your dad in that the thing that is what makes you you, kind of. So so that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. So I want to ask you, before I get more of my questions in, I put out on Instagram for people to ask some questions. So I want to ask a few of theirs. So this is from Hannah Zeiler, and she says, how do you fuel your body well enough to keep up with your training routine? So like, I'm guessing that means like vitamins, supplements, and what do you eat to get the best out of your performance?
Yeah, I really try to get my nutrients from food. I do take a multivitamin from Garden of Life, but for the most part, I'm not really, I do Garden of Life as well. Have a protein powder that I'll take to practice just to help. To be able to drink something throughout a training session is better than food. It digests quicker and it gives you energy, sustains your energy throughout. But as a whole, it's food mostly. And I was actually diagnosed celiac a little over a year ago, about October of last year. So it's been over a year. And that means that I'm gluten intolerant. I can't eat any gluten, which is wheat, rye, and barley. So that has been very interesting, cutting, breads, pasta.
That's a challenge, I'm sure.
My diet. But with that being said, there's still plenty that I can eat, but it's oftentimes even in things like sauces and just things you don't realize. And so it's so sensitive that even if there's cross-contamination where there's not gluten in it, but if it touches something that had gluten on it, like it can be pretty sensitive. So it's complicated things, but at the same time, there's still plenty that I can still do rice. I can still do potatoes, corn products. So like corn chips. So like I do a lot of, when I go out, I do a lot of Chipotle actually, because other than burrito, the rest of it is good. So when I just don't have a choice, like it's a great option. And I could still do Mexican foods. I can still do Asian foods, Thai foods, things like that. So I just really try to get balanced meals. So good carbs, good proteins, and then healthy fats, fruits, and vegetables thrown in. So like a typical meal for me that I like is I do rice with eggs, and I've been just loving this chili crunch. It's like crispy chili or something, like a crispy chili oil. It's gone viral on social media. I tried it before I saw it on TikTok, I swear. But so something like that, or I'll do an omelet with cereal or Greek yogurt with cereal. I like Greek yogurt because it's slow burning, so it will last longer throughout a workout. So yeah, it's just really any variety of protein, carbs, and then healthy fats, fruits, and vegetables.
Awesome. I know you got a lot of sponsors. Obviously, Nike's one of your big ones, but if not, we should clip this and send it right to Chipotle, because that's free for them. Right now. So
that'd be great.
Chipotle, hopefully you're listening. This one's from Mary Emma, I think it's Whitmere, and she said, is there a way to see any of your like upcoming track meets you're in, whether that's like TV or in person maybe?
Yeah, so most of the meets that I compete in are the Diamond League circuit. That is our main professional league. We compete the best. I would say that in the pole vault, it's usually the 12 best compete around at competitions around the world, earning points to make it to the Diamond League final. Other than World Champs or Olympics, that's our biggest meet that we have. So with that being said, those are usually streamed on Peacock. It used to be NBC Sports Gold. Now it's Peacock. I I will be honest, they used to have pole vault specific feeds, and I don't see that quite as often. So I wish they had field event specific feeds. They do for the majors, but you don't see it quite as often in the regular meets, but you're still seeing the best athletes compete in the other events as well. So I think it's still worth it. But yeah, so that's outdoor season. Indoors, I'm actually going to Ashland University next weekend and we'll compete there. I'm very excited about that. And then I will compete in France. I'm not sure. I would assume there's a live feed, but it might be one of those VPN situations.
Okay.
And then US Nationals and possibly Indoor World. So it really is just kind of meet by meet. And if there is a live stream available, I'll usually post where I'm competing, how to watch, things like that. So, but yeah, I would say for track and field, it's typically Peacock.
Okay. And we do have on the bottom, if you're watching when this airs, we do have Katie's Twitter handle on there. I believe that's her Instagram handle as well. So make sure to follow her if you don't already. And obviously she'll share that information out. So, and then this question, I didn't quite get their name, but their last name began with a V. Anyway, they said, were there ever situations where you were afraid to jump or intimidated beforehand?
Yeah. I've gone through various points in my career where I've had mental blocks, been afraid of it. The pole vault to me for a lot of my career has been scary. It didn't start that way, but I think as I got older and realized what it was and how dangerous it was, it was irrational in the sense that I never had any reason for that to happen other than it just kind of came on. I didn't have a big injury. I didn't have a crash, nothing like that. It just kind of, I think it was going to college, knew everything, new coach, new living situation. None of my friends went to that university. I was away from my family. All of it was new. And I think it just manifested itself into anxiety in the pole vault, unfortunately. But yes, I have definitely had various points in my career where I've had bad mental blocks and been afraid of it. But the cool thing that my current coach, when I started working with him in 2017, the first thing he really tackled was how to think on the runway and how to tell myself what to do, which sounds obvious, but before that, it was a clear your mind and just run down, go completely off of feeling, throw your hands up, hope for the best, run as fast as you can and just do it. And that's a very scary way to pole vault. So by changing the mentality and really learning how to think, how to focus, and how to tell my body what I want it to do, it made it a lot less scary. So
that's awesome. And honestly, that applies to so many just everyday life situations too, not just modeling. So that's great advice. And looking, doing, like I said, doing some research before. Brad Walker, I believe, is that your coach?
Yes.
So shout out to Coach Walker out there. And that's great advice for you in the pole vault situation, but also in life to take with you day to day. Just tackle it, but also come up with a plan to get you through that, whatever's troubling you.
Absolutely. Just be intentional with your thoughts. That's really what it came down to, was just, if I could focus, then it kept a lot of the negative emotions out of it. Because when you're trying to do anything, for us, I always use the example of when you're trying to do a drill, a walking plant drill, you can literally do it no problem because there's no fear around it.
Okay.
But for some reason, when we get on the runway, it becomes scarier, and there's no reason it has to be. It's you either choose to execute the same way or you don't. You allow the emotions to get the better of you. So that I thought was really interesting. And his phrase is, it's a choice. You either choose to do it or you don't. And I agree. That can absolutely apply to a lot of other things.
No, I love it. That's so good to hear. And especially like someone of your caliber that's like you've done it at the highest level and you've still had those challenges. So it's you know, for like a normal everyday person, it's so good to hear stuff like that, because it's like, I mean, hey, if she's having trouble, she's an Olympic gold medalist, she's a world champion, and she's had to deal with it. Like, maybe I'm not so, you know, maybe I'm normal or whatever, you know, it's like everyone deals with it.
Yeah, we all struggle. And I really try to make my social media very real, because I think growing up, social media wasn't really a thing, and you just saw successful people and successful athletes as successful, and that it was just that they were good because they were good, and it was hard to relate to that. You obviously aspire to be like them, but then when you'd have a bad day, or at least me, I would just pits of despair, because I'm like, oh, I'm just bad at this, and it's like, no.
Right.
Every trust, I've gotten to know so many elite athletes, and every single one has gone through at minimum a day of like a bad day, but like some have periods of like bad days, and so it's we all have it, and it's very normal, and you just keep it back up.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say I'm happy to hear that, but it's refreshing to hear that
misery loves company. I get it.
Exactly. So, all right, I want to share another video here. This is, I believe, from the Diamond League here, and I want you to kind of like, I'm going to pause it at certain parts and just have you kind of like walk us through your thought process a little bit. So this was, I believe, Wilma Murto, who was competing before you. She was in first place at the time, and I think you were either in second or third before you jumped up to win. So
Wilma Murto, third attempt.
And it wasn't to be, but you see right there, she was in first place. Wilma Murto, incredibly.
Okay, so I apologize to Wilma. I don't know her. I probably will never meet her, but I don't want to show her just like failing here. But
no, it's okay. We fail a lot in the pole vault. So.
But
you beat me a couple meets later, so.
But we see you like kind of like prepping yourself, like, okay, hey, I got a chance to
consistent performer in that 470 to 480 range.
So
the Finnish national champion.
Right now, what's your thought process?
So when I step on the runway, it's funny because they kind of cut right to when I like pick up my pole and start. But I had been told that I talked to myself on the runway. I did not realize I did that, but then watching videos back, I saw it. And all I'm doing, I just talked about telling my body what I want it to do. I am just saying my cues over and over. I'm literally telling myself exactly what I am going to do when I come down the runway. So for me, a big cue is my first one is keep my pole tip up. The pole, when it starts to get too low too early, it weighs a lot out in front of you. If it's straight up and down, it's very light. But if you're balancing all that weight out in front of you, you have to lean back and balance it so that you're not falling over, but that pulls you out of position. Ideally you want to be tall and upright and as forward into the takeoff. So if you're leaning back, so that's one.
And
then my second cue is cover ground, which to me embodies everything I want the first half of my run to be. It is driving out, but it's staying tall and relaxed. So it's just setting up to be as consistent as possible and as powerful as possible. And then once I get halfway down the runway, it's fast hands. The faster I punch my hands up into the takeoff, the better everything else will be. So it's specific cues and actions. That's all I am telling myself to do.
Okay. All right. So let's go through and watch the jump here.
Champion, and Katie Moon was on a journey today. She was in first, then second, now third, down to her final attempt.
Okay. I have to ask. So we went through all the thought process and stuff.
Yeah.
When you clear that, and my favorite picture ever that I've seen of you, first of all, if I can show it here, is this one. That one's amazing. because you know like the joy that's going through your mind. But like when you clear that, what's in your mind right then?
Well, it's funny because I hit the bar there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like this, oh crap. Like it's funny, my face in the still shot clearing this bar is very different from the one in Tokyo. The one in Tokyo, I didn't.
From this one, yeah.
So I knew immediately, like I cleared that bar, whereas this one, it was, oh no, like please don't fall. And so it really was just like, you'll see, like when I land, it's like I wait for a second and then I get really excited.
Yeah.
And there it
and
is,
the
back
scream.
to first again, the final jump of the competition. Started dialing it in as the competition went on.
And what's that like? I mean, your smile, you have a great smile, but like your smile at the end, that has to make all the training, all the hard work, all the diet, all your proper eating, all that stuff. And it has to make it worth it right there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pole vault when it goes well is so fun. It is like the best way I can describe it is if you're watching the Browns, for example.
Yeah.
And it's down to literally the last play of the game and it's a Hail Mary pass and they catch it. And that elation that you feel.
Yeah.
That's what I get. And it's just like, that's such a high that you're chasing, no pun intended, but it's like, it is so addicting, that sensation, that feeling. And so that is so fun. And it sucks so much the other time. Like it's not fun a lot of days, but that feeling is so fun. And that is what I train for. And so, yeah, it absolutely makes it worth it.
And it's awesome because for the viewer too, it's such a short, obviously you're jumping, you said 10 to 13 times maybe.
Yeah. Our competitions will last at minimum 2 hours.
Okay.
Because it's just, everybody gets three misses in a row and then your attempts reset. Okay. And so if you miss 2 at the opening height, you make your third, then it goes to the next bar. So if a bunch of people are missing then it's like each bar takes some time.
Sure.
And as it gets to the last 3, when there's a bunch of people in the competition, you get 1 minute from the time you're called up to start your jump. But once there's 3 people, then you each get 2 minutes. Once you're the only one left, you get 5 minutes. So it really can, the time can get away from you a little bit. They last a very long time.
It gives you a little more time to talk yourself through that process, right? So, okay. Okay, so I'm going to show one more video.
Okay.
And this was, I believe, I don't know if this was the most recent. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I have her name written down, but the Australian. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and her basically. So I just skipped ahead. We're not going to do the jumps on this one.
That's fine.
But I want to know, like, so you guys are tied, basically, to sum it up. So tell me, you're walking over to her. What's the thought process? We'll just watch a little bit of this, and then you two are kind of talking. All right, so that's not something you see a whole lot in sports. Like that's because pole vaulting's it's an individual sport. It's not a team, but you are competing against other. So what was that like? Tell us, like what goes in that process?
Gosh, it's funny because it's nothing you expect to happen. So going into that meet, that just never even crossed my mind. It's funny, back in 2021 at the Tokyo Olympics, the male high jumpers did that. Okay. And I remember watching it thinking, like why? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like hating it, but I just didn't like, I was like, oh, okay, like good for them. But like, I don't know if I'd ever do that if I was in the moment. Like, I don't know. But then, and then I forgot about it because that's the only time I've ever seen that happen. I did not know it was a thing. I didn't know you could share. And then we had just, I talked about a long competition. We were out there for almost 4 hours. It was hot. We had 10 jumps each, and we had a prelim 2 days before to narrow it down to the finals. So you jump until they have 12 women left, and then they stop the competition.
Yeah.
Bring you back 2 days later. So by the end of that competition, I was so tired. I mean, I was getting tired as it was getting towards the end, and then she cleared 490 on her third attempt, and I was after her, and my adrenaline just shot sky high. I've never felt that adrenaline surge, possibly ever. I think the only other time I felt anything like it was the Olympics. But like that immediate surge was unbelievable, but then it crashed and there was no bringing it back up.
Sure.
At that point, with that high of a bar, you are on your, you have to be really dialed in and on to make some things happen. And it really does become dangerous after a certain point.
Yeah.
Your hands are at a fixed point. So if you run in, you're going to get off the ground. You might not make it into the soft mat. So
yeah.
And so what happens was we would have jumped at that height again, and then if we had both missed, it would have dropped down, and if we had both missed again, it would have dropped down, and then if we had both made it, it would have gone back up. And it just, that combined, like with how tired I was, it was just daunting. And she, when I guess her coach and my coach actually competed against each other, and they're friends. So I didn't know this had happened, but her coach came up to my coach and said, we were tied for a while. And he said, would Katie be interested in sharing?
Yeah.
And Brad just said, I will have no part in that. It is completely her decision. I don't want to sway her one way or another. I'm fine with it. He said, I'm fine with it, but like, I don't want to push anything on her because that is totally her choice, which I love. I am so happy that he said that. So they knew, and they kind of had that thought. And so when I was up for my final attempt, I don't know how she talked with her coach about it, but she comes back, and I had asked the official, okay, what happens now? He said, we jump again at 495. So she walks up and says, okay, so what's happening? And I said, we jump at 490. We'll jump at 495. And she just had this slight hesitation on her face of like, okay, like, and that's when it clicked with me, like, oh, wait, like she wouldn't hesitate if we had to keep jump. It just, in that moment, it was like, oh, we could share. And she seems like she wants to. And I was so for that, but I've been fortunate enough to win outright a couple times. She has never won her own outright. So I did not want to, I also, like Brad, I didn't want to push that on her and back her into a corner if she wasn't really feeling like that, but she didn't want to seem unsportsmanlike. And so we were both kind of tiptoeing around it. Like, but you can see me say, like, unless we both want to take it. And she was like, oh, like share? I was like, yeah. She's like, are you sure? No. I think I said, I don't want to jump anymore. My body has given me everything I've asked it to today.
Like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
It was a lot. And like I said, part of the reason I've achieved this level is just listening to my body and knowing when I have pushed it to the point of no longer being safe. And that's where I was. And on that day, I mean, look, we got some backlash for it. It was interesting, but I can understand being mad at the rule, but all we did was follow the rules. So
Yeah.
if you want to be upset
I mean,
about it, you can be
I
mad
was
at
just
the
curious because I had only seen that one other time that you had mentioned with the
Right.
men's competition.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, it's like, and you both walked away extremely happy with that
And
end result.
what's funny is a couple meets later at the Diamond League final, it came down to a jump off between me and a different girl. And I chose to keep jumping because I knew I could take more jumps safely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was exhausted, but I also knew I can take another jump and not worry about killing myself.
Right.
And I wasn't sure that was going to be the case in Budapest. So, and at the end of the day, we finished the competition and we were both the best. I have no issue saying on that day we were both the best. There's no harm in that.
Yeah, not at all. No, that was great. So I've kept you a long time, so I want to just ask you a few more questions. And like, you just flew in from across the Atlantic. You're probably tired, so
no, it's
I want to ask you a couple more questions, and I'll let you get out of here and go to bed. But you've competed in so many different awesome venues. Obviously Tokyo was a little different because I think that was during COVID. There wasn't a whole lot of fans allowed. And obviously you look at that video and there's tens of thousands of people in the stands. Is there like a favorite? Do you have a favorite type atmosphere? You mentioned indoor is more preferential unless there's that tailwind. But is there like a certain venue that you like, a certain city, a certain country you like competing in?
I think my favorite place is Eugene, Oregon, which is funny because I actually think a lot of the runners don't like going all the way out there. It's not the most convenient to get to, but that runway is just, knock on wood, I've never had a bad meet there. That's where I set my personal best. It's just, I just love competing there. Like I said, knock on wood, I've never had a bad meet there. I just love it there. But otherwise, I mean, the sold out stadium, especially Budapest, they did such a good job at that meet of spacing things out, where normally the running events are just back to back and the field events are kind of a sideshow. But when Nina and I were both going for 490, the entire crowd was watching because there were no running events going on. And so the entire stadium just erupted when we both cleared it. And it was unlike anything I've felt or experienced. But otherwise, I really like street vaults. They'll literally set up a pole vault pit in the middle of a street and bring it to people. And those are really, really fun.
Okay.
Trying to get one in Cleveland.
That would be phenomenal. That would be fantastic.
We're working.
Yeah, we would love that. I know Olmsted Falls, the whole city would be there. No, that's so great. So what's next for you? Obviously, you said you're coming to Ashland, back to your alma mater to compete. Obviously, we know there's a pretty big thing going on this summer over in Paris, and so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so yes, I will go to Ashland, and then the weekend after I will be in France at Liévin is the place, and then I come right back and I go to US Nationals indoors, I think. So indoors is, I do love indoors, but it just doesn't have quite the same prestige as outdoors does. And there is an indoor world championships, and I would have to go to US Nationals to qualify, and you have to be top 2 at indoor USAs to qualify for indoor worlds. But we are just kind of taking it meet by meet indoors. We'll just see how we feel, because everything has to be geared up for outdoors and making the Olympic team. No matter how good you are, you have to be top 3 at the US trials in June. And that means if you're sick or you have an off day, tough luck, you're not on that team. So it keeps you honest. It keeps you working hard. And so that's my indoor season, and then I'll get a little bit of a break, and then start with outdoors. And I think our Diamond League meets are Doha, and I think Monaco is in there. I think we have London again. What else? We've got a
just some ho hum cities around the world, you know.
So yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool.
It's very, very cool, and I think you probably don't get to realize like what you're doing in the moment too, because I think, you know, once your career's over, hopefully not for a long, long time, but you can look back and be like, damn, that was awesome. So
definitely. No, in the moment, it you know, people hear, oh, you're traveling to Paris and you're traveling here and you're traveling there, and what's it like? And the reality is it's work. Traveling with poles is a nightmare. I have a phenomenal agent that makes it a lot less stressful, and I find a set of poles that stays in Europe, and I fly to whatever major city that they are stored in at the time, and then fly them to the next competition. But that's stressful. And then as soon as you land, you immediately, even before you land, you have to try and get on the time schedule so you beat the jet lag as soon as possible, because you have to, you're not just there to explore, you're there to compete, and you have to be on and firing and sharp. And so a lot of it is really just laying in my hotel room doing nothing. So it's not as glamorous as it always looks and seems, but it really is amazing, because we do get to explore a little bit if it's convenient. And I've gotten to go to some unbelievable places because of it that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So yeah, it's very special, but it is work.
No doubt. Yeah, it's definitely a business trip. We could probably do a whole future podcast on just your pole vault pole traveling around the world. So
Yep. It's chaos.
So Katie, last question I want to ask you before we let you go. And believe me, I have 500 more. So I will.
I got time. So
hopefully after the Olympics, we will. After your second gold medal and whatever, you take the Kevin Stefanski. I heard you mention the Browns. You're going the 1-0 route. Like, let's just get to the next competition, win that, which is the best competition, best mindset. I'm going with the. Let's see you nail all these competitions, and we'll revisit after the Olympics after your second one. But my question for you is more of like a broad question that you have so many eyes on you, whether it's young females, young males, whoever it might be, athletes. I saw your comment with the Cleveland Sports Commission, which I want to say I thought was great. I thought was fantastic. I love Myles Garrett, and he was well deserving of the athlete of the year. But if for anyone that doesn't know, Katie basically just posed the question of why are there no female nominees? Like that's and I
I really, and I love that organization. I have worked with them. I was lucky enough to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so it was more of just, I have seen for years, there's never been a female recognized at the professional level. And that's not to say that I want women in there in place of men. It's just, how can we recognize women's accomplishment alongside men? Like that's all I was saying. I wasn't saying I wasn't even saying I deserve to be in that spot. Like I would never win anything over Myles Garrett in Cleveland. We could be up for best Olympic moment and he would still beat me. And I'd be so for it. I'm the biggest Myles Garrett fan. But what's interesting is they used to have an amateur athlete of the year, which is where they would put the track and field athletes, which is interesting.
But you're not amateurs anymore. Are you right? You get endorsements, you get paid.
Yeah. Olympic athletes haven't been amateur since 1986.
Yeah.
So as much as I appreciate the inclusion, it's still a little insulting.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That my best example is Tiana Madison won 2 Olympic gold medals and was on a world record holding relay team, and she was only in the amateur of the year category. Not to say only, it's still a major award,
right.
but the biggest honor of the night is the professional athlete of the year. And this woman, who is a professional athlete, won the greatest meet that you can win. Two gold medals in the same Olympics, and wasn't considered a professional athlete. So I've seen this, but the interesting thing is they eliminated that amateur category. So combination of that, and then no female athlete of the year. Like, I have no issue with a female and male category. I think that's great. Like that. Let's celebrate.
I didn't mean to try to put words in your mouth.
No, I'm actually glad you brought it up, because I did want to at least.
I think it's very, very
explain a little bit.
Worth talking. Yeah. I mean,
that's all I wanted to do, was get people was create a conversation, and just because they do celebrate women at that event. Like, if it was a males only event, you wouldn't hear from me. Like, that's fine, have your space, but there is a female and male recipient for both the high school and college section, but not for the professional, when we've had pretty phenomenal professional women. And so that was all they have reached out. And so I'm hopefully going to have a conversation with them about it, which is all I wanted. It doesn't have to be me. After this, after the backlash I got, there's no way I'm getting an award from them ever again.
No, I disagree. I think you're just shedding a nice light on a topic, because everybody, and especially, I know Myles Garrett, but what was it? Josh Naylor and Donovan Mitchell? Was that those the 3?
That sounds right. I just glanced and I knew it was someone from the Cavs.
So I mean,
all deserving,
but very much have a ton of exposure. But you are literally at the top of your sport, the top professional athlete of your sport. Do you think? I bet you could make a jump shot. I know you could. I bet you could field a ground ball, maybe even get in the cage and hit a little bit. Those NFL players are a little bit bigger, I can guarantee Myles Garrett, Josh Naylor, and Donovan Mitchell are not jumping over a 16-foot pole with a 14-foot pole.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, they're all pretty phenomenal athletes. I would put it past them, but I do think pole vault's one of those sports that you can't just walk into.
Nope. And so
I appreciate that. Yeah.
More respect to you, but and we love it. We love all of our Cleveland athletes. We love all of our Northeast Ohio athletes. Obviously, our show is based in Youngstown, so we have a lot of pride. And obviously, over my shoulder, I have Bernie, I have LeBron, I have Ohio State back there. But you are continuing the fantastic tradition that this state, this area brings to unbelievable athletes, and we love watching you, and so excited to see these next few months and how it turns out. And hopefully we have an open line of communication. We can have you back on for sure. So the last thing I want to ask you before, and this was where my question was kind of going before, but any young athlete out there, anyone that wants to one day be in your shoes, whether it's pole vaulting, whether it's track and field, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, whatever, what advice do you have to a young athlete that wants to compete at the top level?
Gosh, there are so many things I could say. I think the big thing about my journey, if you will, is that I was talented. I had potential, but it took me until the end of every stage of my career to reach the pinnacle.
Yes.
So it took me until my senior year of high school to win the state meet. It took me until my senior year of college to win nationals. It took me 6 years out of college to win US nationals and get a sponsorship. And then it took another 3 years to win the Olympics. So there are people that just shoot off right away and are phenomenal, and that's amazing for them. But if that's not you, that does not mean you can't be successful. Like, it's really about, I'm very grateful for the journey I've had, because I have seen some athletes that were phenomenal right away, and then they struggle later in their career because they didn't really know, they were just good. And then they're not really quite sure how to hold on to that. Whereas I really had to learn how to fight and how to think on the runway and things like that, where I'm glad I went through my battles earlier and learn how to avoid them later.
Yeah.
So that, and then just have fun. If you want to try something, do it. Like I said, I had to beg the coaches for days to let me try pole vault, and just wouldn't let them tell me no. Don't take no as an answer. Just if you love it, just keep doing it every chance you get, and just know that the hard days are part of it. Like, it's completely normal to have bad days, but you just keep getting up, keep fighting.
Love it. Okay, I lied. I have one more question.
Okay, all right. I'm here for it.
This was a crossover because I had it written down and I saw one came through on Facebook. Okay, so, and I actually have the picture like queued up and ready. This moment right here, when the national anthem is playing and you are wearing a gold medal around your neck, literally the pinnacle of your competition, your sport, they're playing the national anthem. What does that feel like? What's going on in your mind? What's like, I don't even know if you remember it, but
it was,
do you remember?
so overwhelming that I almost don't remember much about being on the podium. I know I was tearing up. I know that but it just it's so much, and it's so it's oh my gosh, this is everything that I've wanted. What's interesting is I cried more when I won Worlds the next year, because I actually had a very difficult year post Olympics, and that can be a whole podcast by itself.
Okay.
But just struggling with, post Olympics, what's my motivation now? Who am I? It was a lot of struggle throughout that year. And so then no one was expecting me to win Worlds in 2022, but to do it in front of my family and friends. I sobbed on the podium. That one I remember, and I was just bawling. That's not to say it wasn't as meaningful in Tokyo. It just I think in Tokyo I was just stunned, and it almost didn't feel real, because this goal is so big that winning it, you expect it to feel different. And you watch in the movies, and it's this big build and this climax, and it's that meet, these are all the women that I compete with all the time. It is the same thing that I do every day. Nothing about it felt different, other than the nerves and the adrenaline, of course.
Yeah.
So there was this and maybe the fact that there were no fans, but there was almost this disconnect, because you expect it to feel so special and so different. And I think that's one of the reasons that I did well, is because it was I just focused the way that I always did. And my coach taught me that no matter how you're feeling, no matter what's going on, you just come down and you hit a takeoff. That's it. And so I think it took me longer for the Olympics to sink in than it did some of the other medals. So it was emotional, but I remember feeling whoa, it was just a lot of all kinds of emotion. But yeah, still amazing. But I think it's not quite what I had expected, and I think what people expect. It's still amazing, and that you won it, but it's almost like you expect there to be. I remember thinking I did that. There has to be another Olympics where all the good. That can't be me. There's no way. Like there has to be more good people out there that I like still have to beat, because like what is this? Like, so but like then I'd be washing my dishes like a couple weeks later and just start crying. So like it hit me in waves. It just, yeah.
So great. So great. Well, let's do some future podcasts on the mental health side of things, the pole vault pole traveling around the world. So I already have 500 questions for the future to ask you written down, and we're ready to go. But I know I've taken up too much of your time, and I am just absolutely honored to talk to you. And us from Northeast Ohio, we're so proud of our own. And obviously, when we see someone achieve the level of success you have, it feels good for all of us, and we are so looking forward to seeing you over these next couple months. So we will on our show and do our part and share out what we can. But please keep it, please keep doing what you're doing, and know everyone's very, very proud of you. So keep doing what you do. So Katie, again, thank you so much. And we will be in touch, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Right, thanks, Katie. All right. So Katie Moon, formerly Katie Najat of Olmsted Falls, again, world champion, Olympic gold medalist. We can't thank her enough for coming on the show. So again, if you like our show, you watch Youngstown Studio, make sure to share it out, follow us on social, and we will see you guys soon. So with that, we'll be in touch, and we have plenty more content coming up for you guys in the near future.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on